I don't like the Wheel of Time series by Robert Jordan. So if you go to Amazon or you go to Goodreads, predominantly very high ratings for this entire series. I don't like it because of how good it started. My big pet peeve is that there are too many books. Okay, these books originally were started back in the late 80s. I think the first one was published in like 90 or 92. And that was called The Eye of the World. That was the first book. And it starts out great. It's very similar to works like The Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit, or even the Shannara books. I mean, it takes all the typical tropes of like a hero's journey and does some really interesting and inventive, for the time, things with them. Like, for example, you've got not just one hero, but three. You've got three best friends in this little village called the Two Rivers. And these friends, Rand al'Thor, Mat Cauthon, and Perrin Aybara, one of them has the ability to channel something called the One Power, which is basically this world's version of the Force. Except instead of just a light and a dark side, you have a male and a female side to this power that can be channeled, which is just a fancy way of saying used. So women who can channel the One Power can do certain things with it that men can't, and men who channel the One Power can do things with it that women can't. However, at some point in the process, the male side of this power gets corrupted, and so the effect is that any men who try to channel the One Power will eventually, inevitably, 100% of the time go completely batshit crazy and kill themselves and everyone else around them. So the females who can channel are always constantly on the lookout for any men who show signs of being able to channel the One Power, because they know that they can go crazy and break the world. That's basically how the whole thing is set up. And of course you've got a lot of concepts like Robert Jordan's twist on the whole idea of reincarnation, which is taken from Hinduism beliefs of how, I think it's Hinduism, where the world and time itself just is constantly repeating in cycles. So you have the wheel of time that spins around, and great events happen, and then there's a period of cataclysmic change, and then everything quiets down again for many, many centuries, and then everything starts to build back up, and it's this never-ending wheel of time that spins around, and all you can do is hope you do better the next time around, essentially. So that's great. And I love for how, this being the late 80s, early 90s, how forward-thinking this series seemed to be compared to some of the others of that time period. Very strong matriarchal society represented in these books, strong female characters, and strong men, male characters too. Everything, it was very well written in the beginning. It's bloated. The series is just bloated. We're talking Android phone out of the box bloated. We're talking Chris Christie at an Atlantic City buffet bloated. We're talking Jamie Lee Curtis yogurt bloated. There's too much stuff, and it's not important stuff. It's just a lot of filler. There's too many characters, and I'm not joking. You're probably thinking, okay, how many characters could there possibly be? Here's a little taste. Ready? On your mark, get set, go. That was a very, very small taste. There's over 2,782 named characters in this series. And really, the whole story, honestly, could have been told in maybe 4 books, maybe 5 if you're stretching it. No, Robert Jordan stretched it out to 14, although that's not entirely his fault because he planned for 12, and then he died before he finished the 12. And so his estate brought on another author to complete it, and that author determined that there was just too much content to put all in a 12th book, and so it would be better if they extended it to 14 books. I think that was probably more of a money grab than anything. There's actually a lot of controversy over the last book not being released as an ebook when it was released in hardback. And the thinking of the time was that his widow, Robert Jordan's widow, wanted to make sure that it got to the top of the bestseller lists, and I guess at that time they weren't necessarily counting ebooks as part of those sales, so she deliberately, this is what people think anyway, deliberately delayed the release of it as an ebook so it wouldn't cut into the hardback book sales numbers, so he could be at the top of the bestseller lists again with the last release of the final book. Even though he was dead and it wasn't actually him, she just wanted that to happen. Who knows? 14 books is too many. 12 books was too many. I made it to book 9. By the time I got to book 9, which I think was Winter's Heart, yeah, I was done. My favorite character wasn't even in book 8. He got knocked unconscious at the end of book 7, which was, I don't remember the name of book 7 off the top of my head. Path of Daggers was the 8th book. And Matt Cawthon, who's my favorite character in the series, wasn't even in it. He had got knocked unconscious at the end of book 7. And I read the whole 8th book going, when's Matt going to be in it? When's Matt going to make an appearance? And nope, nothing. And that made me angry. And really, 2,782 named characters, that's too many. And it started to spend so much time on all these other ancillary, what I consider to be ancillary characters, that I just lost interest. And that was it. So maybe 10 characters that I really cared about what was happening with them, and you spent almost no time with them as the books went on and on and on and on. It felt like, yeah, it just lost me. That's really the bottom line. So I'll never finish this series of books. If I ever want to know how it ends, I will just go read the Wikipedia summary, because that's how little I care anymore. Which is sad, because it started out so good. But it lost sight of what it was, I think. And it was just too many characters, too many notes, to quote Amadeus. So yes, and again, I realize this is an unpopular opinion, so if you have a dissenting opinion, go ahead and let me know about it in the comments down below. Until next time, I'm Ken McKim. You take care and read more books. Just don't read the Wheel of Time books, because